Has Modi really brought Achhe Din to India? We'll try and discuss this. Joining me this evening is author, veteran journalist, and political commentator Saba Naqvi. Thank you so much, Saba, for joining. And of
Thank
course,
you.
the first question is to begin with the 12 years of Modi government, the entire lot of programs have been lined up. Does this look like a propaganda, or is it real reaching out to the people with a proper development map?
Thank you for having me, Neelu. First of all, I was there at the swearing in of Prime Minister Modi when he became the Prime Minister for the first time on a hot day in May. And just to compare with the swearing ins that I had covered of the Vajpayee era, there were small affairs in one corner of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. This was a huge affair. And if you recall, all the leaders of the South countries were called. Nawaz Sharif came for that. There was a lot of excitement at that point. So it seemed Modi came in with in a very different world that we are now living in, and he put out signals on that day at least of a different time, and it was a moment of history. We were watching something where the big transition that had taken place was India was shifting from a long era of coalition rule, which is almost not exactly 30 years, but just a few, almost 3 decades, and single party rule had returned with a controversial chief minister of Gujarat becoming the prime minister of India and winning a mandate. So, if you ask me what has changed in India, let me just get into that. Is that so? We have that change, even though in 2024 we technically shifted out of simple single party rule, and the Bharatiya Janata Party actually lost a lot of seats, and we can talk about that a little later. So obviously these programs under various subheads is part of the propaganda, because right now at this point, where we are is that there is going to be an economic crisis which is going to hit a lot of Indians. So the Bharatiya Janata Party would want to promote itself. There are a couple of things which they have done since 2024, which are actually very dramatic in the nature of conducting elections. And but let me just go back a little bit. Since Prime Minister Modi came to power in Delhi, the Bharatiya Janata Party itself has changed. It is a central high command party now, where the writ of two people runs. Having covered the BJP, it was a very open, talkative party. It is no longer so. At the same time, the RSS has benefited so much from his power, from his reign, that I do not buy those stories that occasionally tell you that they will, they're seething. Yes, they do show their unhappiness now and then, as they did during the 2024 Lok Sabha election, because the Bharatiya Janata Party had declared that they don't need anyone but themselves. If you remember, the then president of the party had made statements to that effect, and the party had declared "Ab ki baar 400 par." So let me start with the internal dynamics of what the BJP is. So the Bharatiya Janata Party itself has changed. It is a high command party built around the idea of a supreme leader. Number one, that is one. It is not that they were not charismatic. Even Atal Bihari Vajpayee was a charismatic figure, but he led a coalition. That is the first change that has happened in the nature of the Bharatiya Janata Party itself. But the BJP has expanded geographically in a very dramatic way. Till the 24 election, I'm giving you the political breakdown. In 2019, the BJP, when it won an even larger mandate, that is when they came out with legal certain laws and structural changes in India. That is when they brought out the CAA. That is when they changed the nature of Kashmir, the Jammu and Kashmir. It happened right after the 2019 election, which was fought in the context of the Pulwama attack and India's strikes in Balakot. Pulwama cycle, it was a war election in a sense. That election, the Bharatiya Janata Party did the best ever that it's done. in India's history, in the sense that its vote share went up from 32% to around 36 point something. And after that, the Prime Minister, they changed the nature of Jammu and Kashmir, which was reduced to a union territory, which has still not been sorted out. And there was about a curfew for a year, and various leaders were put into jail. So let's put that aside. Legally, also, they brought about the CAA, which led to the Shaheen Bagh protests. After that after that, there was Corona, which disrupted everything when the Prime Minister advised us to bang thalis, and and for people to go home, and they stopped all road, they stopped all movement of trains, and all Indians had a very traumatic time. But oddly enough, the BJP never paid the price for that. There have been two mass exercises in the Modi era when people have been given so much pain. First was on November 8th, 2017 or 18, when the demonetization was declared. And it was so shocking to all of us that I drove down as a reporter to Meerut, which is a hub of making fabric and cloth. And people were just on the road standing in lines because entire small scale enterprises were being destroyed. And he did that. And then the manner in which the COVID lockdown was declared, the manner in which people walked home, died going home, lost work, left cities, poured out, all of that. There were two mass exercises which were statements by the Prime Minister. You know, bank thalis, go home, do this, money is ended, your notes are worthless. But in both those cases, what I found very interesting is to examine there was no political price to be paid. Soon after demonetization, the Bharatiya Janata Party won the state of Uttar Pradesh. Not just Lok Sabha seats, they won the state of Uttar Pradesh for the first time. And likewise, after the corona, there doesn't have to, seems to have been a price that they paid
No, but
after
if you look
death.
at, I mean, I'm glad that you put out that sequence of events, and the public also now can recall, our audience would recall as to what the journey of Prime Minister Modi's rule has been. But this is also a very startling reality that Modi has not paid an electoral price for any of the wrongdoings as perceived in the eyes of the people, whether it was COVID,
Yeah,
whether
so
it
that's what I'm getting to now. So when you have a supreme leadership, when you have a party and an ideology which is capturing, in the business of capturing an India which was not built, whose framework was not built by the ideas that they propagate. It's a very distinct ideology. And RSS and BJP are running the show now. Then I'm just building up and coming to the year 2024, because what happens after that is more relevant now. In 2024, when the Bharatiya Janata Party was so super confident, they declared Ab Ki Baat 400 Par, is when they got a jolt. They got a jolt in losing seats and needing allies such as Nitish Kumar and of the Janata Dal United and Chandrababu Naidu were roped in to get the numbers. Had there not been a startling result in Odisha, where suddenly they got all the 20 seats, or 20 out of 21, it was an extraordinary figure. They would have lost power. The Odisha saved them. Odisha, which is a non-traditional state for them, saved them, saved their government. It was at the skin of their neck. After that, something flipped in the Modi era BJP. Till then, they did well in national elections uh, in 2014 and 2019, but the states were still showing a health of federal parties, regional forces, and all. That is when by that time a certain exercise had already begun in the state of Maharashtra. Very important because of money. It is the richest. It is a state where big capital resides, primarily so. They had already the Shiv Sena, the NCP, and all. The splitting and the ED cases had already begun over there. But the panic of 2024 is when the whole structural aspects of elections, they needed to control that now. They were not going to take any chances with even state governments. and that is when laws are brought in about choosing the election commissioner, the CEC, Chief Election Commissioner, which takes away the Chief Justice's role in that, and they do that, and then in Delhi, let's say they're fighting Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi, they change the laws, which doesn't give them right the ruling up over the bureaucrats. They change the law, so they disable people, they send the leadership to jail. They develop a very, very sharp edge against parties that they wish to defeat. Because 2024 was a shock. They did not get defeated, but if you remember that moment in Parliament, when Parliament reconvenes after the election, they lost the seat of Ayodhya. And there is the Samajwadi Party with its huge contingent.
Yes.
They lost in the second important state, which we look as a model Hindutva laboratory, was Gujarat. Then it was going to be Uttar Pradesh with Ayodhya, with the Prime Minister's seat in Banaras. His margin of victory came down. Something happened which they were completely shocked by. So then, since then to now, the BJP has decided that the people of India, some people of India cannot be trusted, and we must have a blueprint to ensure that the architecture of Indian elections changes in a way that some people do not have the capacity to defeat us. And that is what is ruthlessly being done. And I have to say, I would say the subversion of the system altogether begins after a loss of electoral ground for the Bharatiya Janata Party. That is when they really zeroed in. There are another thing that they're doing, because they've not actually been able to generate jobs. The other thing that's happened is that the dreams of Vishwaguru have actually faded. Because, Neelu, let me just put this out there. I was someone who, as a kid, I went to middle school in the US in a campus called Princeton because my father was on a fellowship there. And everybody they didn't know much about India, but they say Gandhi and, oh, you're from Gandhi and yoga and lovely peace loving people and elephants. They used to talk like that. India had a certain cachet. There was this land which gave you wonderful ideas of non-violence and also at a very superficial level. Then we were going to redefine India under the Prime Minister Modi's image. This powerful nation coming up, bulwark to China, Vishwaguru, world is going to learn from us. Actually, we have no real much position in the world. And it's also linked to the loss of ideas that India gives the world. India, just people are there. Indians are being badly treated outside outside India. There is a loss of face because we are not giving any idea except we are becoming a sort of counterpoint to a Pakistan or a Bangladesh. We're a reductionist ideology. All the good things we're throwing out, and we're doing it very deliberately. But the reason we are doing it is, in spite of the loss of reputation in the world, is because it's the greatest diversion within India. Now think about it. Normally, you would imagine that a responsible Congress inclined of the old era, with all its vanities, with all its vagueness, would be a little cautious about coming to power in a state which was partitioned, which is born out of partition, and where you've just had a situation in Bangladesh where you have objected over what you felt was an attack on Hindus, but it's a border state. It's a state with which you once had excellent relations. The deposed leader of the state is sought refuge in India. And today all you're doing is you are talking about Azan and Qurbani and Eid is around the corner. So your whole thing is so let's say that Bangladesh was maltreating Hindus, whatever Hindus remain there, which I gather is a reasonable number, during this time when Sheikh Hasina was deposed, right? We are now doing it as state policy in India. We are going to do one better than them. From the utterances, everything is being attacked. Of a 27% of our population in Bengal. So it's extraordinary. We've already had the scenario of another border state like Assam, where the chief minister has already done things which I don't wish to repeat over here. So that is the part, that is what we are showing. That is what the Western media covers about us.
Yes.
Let's cut us out. Let's say, we are certain. I'm a certain kind of person who sees this. I do see a reputational, very serious reputational loss for India.